Good evening and welcome. Mayor Hyde, thank you for your hospitality and your opening remarks, and also for signing on to the Mayor's initiative on global warming. It's really a privilege to be here in Waukegan to talk to you about the link between our national security and our continuing dependence on oil. And not just foreign oil, but that is a key aspect of this threat to our national security. Why? Well, if you recall, a few weeks ago, there was a General Assembly of the United Nations, and President Ahmadinejad from Iran, President Hugo Chavez from Venezuela, two oil-exporting nations, stood before the General Assembly in New York and basically insulted the United States, the people of the United States, and our elected leaders. They did this because they were able to. We need their oil. We need their oil. We need our own oil. We need the oil of every exporting country, because we have become, as Antonia said, addicted to oil. But there's a lot we can do about it, and we can do it, first of all, by recognizing that we have a problem that isn't going to go away. Recall a year ago, this past September, when Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, in particular New Orleans. It took out a lot of the oil pumping and refining capability along the Gulf Coast, temporarily measured in weeks and months, not years. And we saw gas at the pump spike up well over $3 a gallon for gas. That was because of a temporary interruption caused by a natural disaster, and it was repairable in a relatively short period of time. Imagine, if you will, a similar reduction in the ability to extract oil, transport it, refine it, deliver it, caused by a terrorist attack at a major transshipment point in the Persian Gulf, attacks on tankers in the Straits of Hormuz, interruption of flow through the Straits of Malacca or the Straits of Gibraltar, or in any of the world's oceans where that lifeblood of the world economy must flow to support the economies of the world. That could happen tomorrow. It could happen this very evening. And it could happen in a way that interrupted that flow of oil, not for just weeks or months, as we saw in the Gulf Coast over a year ago, but literally for years. And what will happen to that price of gasoline at the pump, price of heating oil in our homes, price of natural gas, all of the things, the benefits that we get from oil products would go very, very high in terms of cost. It would be a tremendous hit to us personally in our family pocketbooks and budgets. It would be a drag on our economy. The price of getting goods out of the ground on farms would go up, transporting them to market. The price of moving things around, any type of materials around, would go up, and we would all be paying that, in addition to the direct costs of buying oil for our homes or our automobiles. So this is not a pleasant scenario, and it's one that, if we realize that it can happen, will cause us a sufficient degree of alarm and motivation to do something about it. It's important that we really, really do understand that. In the longer term, put aside for a moment interruptions of weeks, months, or years caused by terrorist action or a war, or perhaps even a political embargo from oil exporting countries, and imagine that we are just in a steady state growth of economies. The age of oil has been very, very good to the United States and to the Western world. It has produced for us a high quality of life, an industrialized society with benefits that can be measured in many, many ways. And what we are seeing now on the other side of the world, in large nations like India and China, is growing populations, and the demand for a better quality of life that they are willing to work for, and indeed they are absolutely deserving of a higher quality of life. However, if they decide that they must attain that quality of life driven by their economies, their growing economies and growing populations, the world will not be able to sustain it. Just the supply and demand of oil will not sustain it. We passed a rather incredible mark last month in the United States. Our population went above 300 million people. The same month, the population of the world went over 6.5 billion, and that is going to continue to rise up through the middle part of this century, at least, and probably to about 2070. If you do any type of calculation of per capita, each person's use of oil or oil-derived products and the environmental impact of the use of those products in the traditional business-as-usual way, it just isn't a sustainable scenario. So based on national security in a military sense, in a safety sense, based on national security in an economic sense, and also in an environmental sense, we have a tremendous challenge. And has been pointed out by both of my colleagues who previously spoke, there's the good news side of this. We can do a lot about it. We can do it as consumers, and we can do it as citizens. As consumers, if you recall Antonia's chart where we wanted to have a big wedge of carbon loading taken out in the future to actually suppress our carbon loading of the atmosphere below current levels even, over 50% of that was due to one factor, and that is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency in our homes and business, energy efficiency in our transportation. So we can make choices as consumers to use less gasoline, less home heating oil, less natural gas, less electricity in our homes and businesses and in our automobiles and trucks by making wise choices. Now, no one or very few people have the ability to just rush out and say, hey, how about give me one of those hybrids? Give me one of those Toyota Priuses. I want to get 50 or 60 miles per gallon. But the next time it comes time to replace the family car, that is a real great choice to make. I'm not endorsing Toyota. I'm just saying that the idea of facing rising demand over possibly the near term, but for sure the long term of rising gas prices, making choices about appliances, making choices about how we get around, how we use our automobiles is really, really crucial. It's crucial and it's near and dear to our budgets, our family budgets, and our nation's budgets, and it really does make a big difference when all of us do something. There are a lot of great choices out there. If you check out the Re-energize America.org website, there are choices that can be made there as consumers. In terms of being citizens, we need to talk to one another about the fact that this is a real threat to our way of life and the health of our environment, the health of ourselves and our children and grandchildren. It truly is. It's real. And we cannot afford to wait until it gets so overwhelming and so painful, and the price of fixing it is going to go very, very high. We can do something about it now because we know we can make change as citizens. We proved that last week, that we can change the course that our national government takes. We can change the course that our state and local governments take if we recognize that there is a need for a change direction. There's a wonderful, wonderful Native American saying that applies to this challenge. We can't wait for it to be solved in Washington or in Springfield or anywhere else. We have to start solving it at every level. And that American Native saying is, we are the people that we have been waiting for. Thank you.